I guess let's start there. I mean, obviously everything that's happening right now, we can dissect the games and we can pick them apart, but we know that really everything that has happened for the last few weeks, everything that's going to happen this weekend and then out of the All-Star break is all about what happens at the end of this month. It all ties together. And I think that we saw some important things this week. One, again, just the volatility of the offense. Now, everybody talks about how inconsistent this lineup is, but I would argue that really that's more of a product of the sport. When you look at lineups across this league right now, you see teams that have quality lineups that perform well in the top 5, top 10 of a lot of different statistical categories, and then they go ice cold. I mean, look at what the Dodgers are going through right now. I mean, they back-to-back sweeps. They've been ice cold, and everyone's like, "What's going on with LA?" Right? Like, I don't think it's so much that they're inconsistent as they are volatile. Like the Phillies are just, and they've been like this for a long time. It's just a way up, way down. Like it consistently inconsistent. Like however you want to phrase it. So we know that there has to be an offensive add to this mix. Now we talked about Romano, right? It has to be, Anthony. There has to be. We talked about Romano, and I said I'm not at a point where I would DFA him. I think that there's still enough upside there. You have all these other guys. Maybe you kind of stuff him away, let him try to figure it out. So that was probably about 2 weeks ago. I'm actually now going to go the other way on this. I think that they have to move on from him. It's not working. It's not going to work. And what is the upside? That he pitches a bunch of low leverage, meaningless innings, and then you build him back up to a spot where you're going to utilize him late in the game and he just implodes again. I just don't see how this works out. I might be wrong. Douglas Gilbert, we can pray Romano isn't on this team in 3 weeks. Guy just doesn't have it. And again, good guy, rooting for him. I agree. I mean, I just think we're at a point where this isn't going to work out, and it's just a matter of time.
So let me ask this. I'm gonna come at it from the other side of it, just for the argument's sake. So let's just say you hold on to him. They don't move on from him by the deadline, and you have, the rest of July, August, and September to see what he does, to see if he figures it out. If he doesn't, you just don't put him on your playoff roster. Right? But giving up on it now, does that make you better? Like, is there something internally that's going to be replacing him? I know you're going to go out.
Giving up on him now, like on Friday, July 11th? No. 3 weeks from now, I would like to think that you're at a point where you're like, look, this isn't a depth piece. This isn't a guy that we're going to depend on in October. We've made 1 or 2 additions. Now,
so I could see a world, and I had this conversation with someone the other day after that happened, after the latest blow up, and I said, if Jordan Romano is take the long man out of the mix, but is the last guy in your pen, the 8th reliever in your pen.
This was my argument 2 weeks ago.
Is that the worst thing in the world? And I don't think it is, because if you're saying we're going to use him in games that we're down, or we need somebody to pitch a 5th inning because it's 4-1 and our starter's got to come out early. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I really am okay with that. You keep it on a short leash. You say, hey, if it looks bad, 3 batters and he's out of there, whatever, because they're only going to add, and this is why I say this, they're only going to add no more than 2 relievers at this deadline. Right. Let's be honest. They're going to add relievers, right? But at maximum, they're going to add 2. All right. With that being said, do you want the 2 to be one of them replacing Romano? Because then I still think it leaves your bullpen short. If you say we're adding 2 and Romano's just getting bumped down,
well, I mean,
then I think you're a better bullpen.
So that if you look at it, and I get this, like I do, I understand it. This is really my case that I had made 2 weeks ago. But if you bring in 2 more relievers, right, and then the plan still is in some way, shape, or form, you are going to add to your bullpen mix in October through converting a starter, shouldn't that be enough? And I guess if you go through the names and you start to look at it and say, like, all right, well, let's talk about this a little bit. If not him, then who? But like, are we reaching a place where you rather see a Seth Johnson on this roster than a Jordan Romano? Like that's where I'm starting to trend now, where I go, like, would I rather keep with some upside that I want to find something out of that?
And I think that's a to be determined, right? So I'm fine with what you're suggesting, and maybe Seth Johnson is the answer, right? Maybe that's a guy that ends up winning a spot in this bullpen for October, but let it play out, right? And don't just abandon ship today.
No, I mean I wouldn't. When I say
or even July 31st, right. Like let it play out for the rest of the regular season. So just let's play the game for a second, right? So I don't think that the guy who's ultimately the closer in the playoffs is on this roster yet. Do you agree with that?
I hope so.
Okay. All right. Like we're going to talk about some of the stuff.
Let's talk about the reports and the athletic story. We'll get to all of that. Yeah.
We'll get to that. Right. So let's say that. All right. So then if you need 3 other high leverage relievers, who are they right now?
Kerkering.
Okay.
Strom.
Okay.
And Joe Ross.
No, but I'm saying so. It's probably the other, probably the other bullpen addition that you're going to get at the deadline. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about in October, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 4. Now you need at least 4 more relievers.
Yeah.
Tanner Banks, right? One of your starting pitchers, probably Luzardo at this point, if everything trends the same way it's trending. And then who? Who are your other 2 after that?
Well, this is fun, but I mean, does Taijuan? I mean, Taijuan Walker's done a nice job for them, right? Like, aren't we at a point where like
I think he ends up maybe being your long man. Like that's why I said like so he's the long guy, right? You have 9 relievers in the playoffs. You only need 4 starters. So you have 9 relievers in the playoffs. So let's say Walker is your long guy. You still need 2 other guys. This is what I'm trying to say to you. So if you abandon Romano, if you get rid of Romano, you better have 2 other arms in your system that you're willing to go with. Seth Johnson could be one. Maybe they convert another starter. Maybe you sit there and go, well, Mick Abel, we're going to talk about him today. Maybe Mick Abel is a guy who converts to a bullpen spot, but that's assuming he survives the deadline, right?
Are you surprised? Are you surprised that he was utilized in that spot on Wednesday night? Number 1, and like number 2, are you surprised that they went back to him after he got through the 8th inning?
You mean Romano?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was not surprised that in the moment that he was the guy that they went to in the 8th inning, just because I thought it was mismanaged earlier, right? Like if you asked me, if you knew you were only going to get 4 innings out of Walker, that was kind of his limit. Going to Tanner Banks in the 5th inning, I think was the mistake. That was the mistake, because I think that's where you go to a lower leverage guy, go to your Daniel Robert in the 5th inning, right? And save Banks and Strom so you have them for later in the game. The fact that he burns Banks in the 5th, the lefties come up in the 7th, now you have to use Strom there. Now you've really backed yourself into a corner at the back end of the bullpen, right? If you go with a Daniel Robert in the 5th inning, you probably have one of those lefties still available to come in and you don't have to go to Romano.
Yeah, I mean, watching that unfold, the final at bat aside and losing in that fashion, which is utterly ridiculous, but it's an exasperating sequence just in that you're tired of watching Jordan Romano. Like, it's not going to end well. He's just not good enough. And so it's part frustration with him, but then it's also frustration with a guy like Jose Alvarado who's sitting at home and has allowed in some way this to kind of take place. That was a popular thing online the other night. Like, I hope Jose Alvarado's having a good time tonight. And then it's also like that this is what they're working with, that they left it short to begin with, even outside of the Alvarado stuff. Like we said, at some point, this was going to come back and bite him in the ass, like the Alvarado suspension. And for the most part, it really hasn't. Like they've been really good holding on to leads late in games after the 7th, after the 8th. This isn't like dumpster fire, blowing games left and right. they would have a 10-game lead if their bullpen was good type of situation. But it was just one the other night where you're like, I cannot believe I'm watching this guy pitch the 9th inning. This is not a surprising result. Also, I can't believe that it's gotten to this point where they even had to think about going to him in this spot. And it to me, in a way, like, I'm never like a big, I hope it all goes wrong so it accentuates the problems and it forces their hand kind of guy. Or like, I don't want the Phillies to win 15 of their next 16 games going into July 31st so that everyone has a false sense of security about what the team is. Like, I don't like doing that. But to me, like, in a way this week, I'm like, there you go. It's just your latest example. You've got to do it. Like, you cannot just say, oh, we're a tweak here, a tweak there. Let's go win a World Series. You have to do something of significant consequence come the end of this month.